there's going to be a few people who will want to hear a bit about what we've been talking about, but were unable to attend. So I'm assuming you're going to press OK to participate as I press record. So my name is Ben Loomer. I'm a member of LEARN's provincial resource team, and I'd like to introduce my colleague, Debbie Horrocks, who is the director of the provincial resource team, who will be joining me and adding her knowledge and information as we kind of go through the slides and then hear some of the stories. So one thing, well, I'd like to start with a land recognition, which is something at LEARN that we feel is important to do. So I would like to begin by acknowledging that LEARN and its offices is located in Laval, which is located on an unceded Indigenous land. So when I say unceded, I recognize that the original community of the Ganakahaga never ceded or legally signed away their lands to the Crown or to Canada. Where I work, we are committed to learning and unlearning about the past. We commit to using the knowledge and the power we have to implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission on Residential Schools Calls to Action 62 to 65, which deals specifically with education. This includes making age-appropriate curriculum on residential schools, treaties, and Aboriginal peoples' historical and contemporary contributions to Canada, a mandatory education requirement for all students. So if this is something that you want to continue working with us and doing, I invite you to be in touch with us and we can share what we're doing on both sides. So I also want to invite people to, in the chat, just introduce themselves, their role, where they're located in terms of the center or the vocational adult center and the school board. So let's take a moment and just see who is in the group. And I am going to put up the PowerPoint. As people tap away. I like how everybody's diligently doing it. This is great. Okay, wonderful. So we have Aina. Well, I'll let everybody read, and I'm going to, like I said, put up this PowerPoint. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us. This has been really wonderful to have interest in what we've been doing around adult education and the community learning centers. So I'm just going to start. So as I mentioned before, my name is Ben Loomer. Before starting my career here at LEARN, I was a high school teacher with English Montreal School Board. And for over 12 years now, I've been working with the CLCs. And this is something that we really believe in. The reason why we wanted to put this together is kind of twofold. And this is the purpose of the webinar. So one is to share innovative practices that foster adult center and community partnerships. This is something that has been developing over the last few years, and we've never had a webinar like this before, where we kind of shine a light on adult centers and vocational ed, even though we've been getting a sense from the work of community development agents that they're doing really important and innovative work. Our second purpose is really to pique the interest of centers that may not yet be in the CLC world, and think about how we can foster deeper connections that go from early childhood through the youth sector into the adult and vocational ed sector, because we are learning that there's some really wonderful opportunities, win-wins as we like to call them. And just to give you a sense of what's going to happen over the next 35 minutes is I'm going to share a little bit about CLCs, about what we call extended models and the adult education and vocational ed centers that work within those extended models. And then we're going to hear from two different people about what's been successful in their own community. So we're going to hear some stories, which is really wonderful. So in terms of community learning centers, just a quick overview, CLCs have been around for about 16 years. And really they've been hubs for school community partnerships. And this all happens because of the work of community development agents. And community development agents, among their roles is to help develop school community partnerships that benefit student success and community vitality. This is something that is very important to us. And over time, we started off small, but we've been growing to what now has 90 schools in all 10 English school boards. Quick overview, the community learning centers is supported through the official language minority program, which comes from Heritage Canada. Because education is a provincial jurisdiction, it goes to the Ministry of Education, who then uses the funds in two different ways. One is to support a small team at Learn, which is the provincial resource team, which myself and Debbie are part of. And they also give money to school boards, which pays for the salary of the community development agents. And together, we are part of this community learning center network. So what is a community learning center or a community school? It is fostered or based upon this idea of school community partnerships that benefit students, the community, and families that make up those communities. And it really is, again, this chance of who are the different partners in the community, where are their common outcomes or shared goals, and what are the ways that schools and organizations can work together to benefit the English-speaking population and the population at large. We've been doing research over time as terms of the benefits and things that are important include in community schools, there's increased visibility of the school in the community of the linguistic minority community. Many times we're seeing increased school enrollment. There's authentic learning opportunities through strategies like community service learning, accessing resources from community partners. Those could be volunteers, those could be grants, and other just supports. And as well, we're learning that students are more engaged in their community. And when we speak about resources, we're also talking about financial, material, and other in-kind. What kind of drives the community learning center, again, is the work of a community development agent who is there to help foster these strong community partnerships. And we're going to hear about some of those stories in a few minutes. Specifically, this is often successful because they're sitting on different local or regional development tables where there's often funds or resources that are being discussed to help the community at large. Often they are the sole English-speaking representative, which is quite powerful. And as well, they're working with the school staff, families, and students to kind of meet needs. And this is something that's really important, especially around the time when there's the development of the commitment to success plan or the educational projects at schools. Like, what are the ways that partners can be involved in this work? When talking to CLC principals or center directors, some of their work or the benefits of the work that they've seen include the importance of making sure the CDA is part of the school staff and part of the school culture. But it's also important in terms of making those strategic connections between teachers and community development agents. We've also been thinking about what are the opportunities to collaborate with the youth sector in the community or families that are part of the adult center, but also, have young children or in the youth sector as well. What are those natural ways of connecting? And things that we've heard from school principals include, increased growth and visibility in the community, which is important, which brings in more students, the ability to harness resources to meet school or center needs, and just, somebody there who could really take on things like social emotional learning or other kind of projects that kind of transcend the center itself and the community. So this is, again, something that we're very proud of that has been developing over these last years. What are the mechanisms that we can kind of create these school community partnerships? And I see Sumin there, and I'm reminded about something that she spoke about last time we spoke about extended models as well, which is the ability to leverage a great partnership. So if it works in one area, what are the ways that we could kind of bring it to an adult center or kind of double down in ways that may not be possible when there's kind of piecemeal partnerships happening. So these are something that's really important that we were inspired by. Now, I spoke about strategic partnerships as well. Here's just a small image of different partners that CLCs commonly work on at the provincial level. I also want to speak about, regional level partnerships might be, partnership tables where funding is dispersed, or local school level partnerships, which might include a community library, a seniors residence, a food bank. Again, who are the people in local communities that want to work with the students in your adult centers, or kind of have these win-win, mutually beneficial partnerships. And as I kind of continue, one thing I'd like to speak about again is the development of a common vision. So there's a number of people that are kind of new to the CLC network joining us, and I really want to reinforce or underline this idea that when there's a vision of how these partnerships can meet the needs of students and staff in adult education centers, whether it's around mental health and wellness, whether it's around careers and other learning opportunities, whether it's around supporting young children that are in the students' lives. These are all things that that part of the CLC vision of school community partnerships can kind of benefit. And thinking about how these partnerships can be met through grants or different measures that are always kind of floating around, and as well, where is there alignment between, for example, the goals of an adult center and the goals of the school board and the goals of a CLC and different partners. So these are things that that we're really proud of. So I'm just going to kind of wrap up this section and speak about extended models specifically. So originally when CLC started, it was kind of one CDA and one school. And there came a time when other schools in the area, for example, elementary schools, secondary schools, and adult centers, wanted to kind of work together in different ways because they're often in the same municipal, the same MRC. So what are the ways that that shared partnerships can benefit all these different centers and schools? So here's a quick image of where different community learning centers are located. Each one of these spots have a community development agent associated with them. But also just to say that in the extended network of CLCs, right now, formally, here's a list of the different centers that are part of the CLC network. One of the reasons why we wanted to kind of host this as well is to just let other adult centers or vocational ed centers know about the work of CLCs. If you want to learn more about this and see how you can get involved, I do invite you to speak to Debbie or I afterwards, and we'll see what are the ways that you can kind of buy into the CLC approach. And just to have you focus on the last box there on the far right is a definition of an extended model, where you have one community development agent working with multiple sites that communicate together and plan strategic programming that impact all schools involved. So that's kind of the key, this idea that there's one community development agent that is kind of working with all three schools or schools and centers to make it successful. And we have 3 CLC models. And before we kind of wrap up this section, I just want to note that in 2018, we had an evaluation on the benefits of what an extended model can do. And things we found include increased access to partners and service providers, increased access to programs, increased visibility and presence in general with the adult centers, and just being able to benefit from what comes from being in close collaboration with the other educational centers in the community. And so they're not just like individual silos, but what are the opportunities for kind of cross collaboration as well. And this is something important. And I'll just note as well, and I know the community development agents know this, they're in the room, is that things do not happen with the snap of a finger. It's lots of work in terms of making sure there's constant collaboration and planning, and just making sure that the different opportunities land well at these different centers and the population that works with them. And we have a few recommendations, but mostly I wanted to well, I'm going to stop for 1 second and just ask, are there any questions about things that I've been sharing or presenting before we get into some conversations and stories? Okay. Well, with that, as we were thinking about this, thought it would be important to speak to two different people that have experience working with the adult ed centers or vocational education centers using the CLC approach. So I'd like to introduce, and you can wave when I say your name, Megan LaRue, which is part of the New Frontier School Board and works with two different adult centers or vocational ed, and Aina Osborne, who is once upon a time was a community development agent, but is now a center director. So what I'd like to do for the next few minutes is I'm going to take about 10 minutes and we're going to have kind of a conversation with each of them, and really want to hear the stories and the successes of what they've been up to and what they've seen and experienced. And then we'll have time for questions, and then we'll go from there. So Megan, I'd like to start with you. Hi, Megan, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, and you?
I'm very good, thank you. So maybe we'll just start off. If you could say a few words about so also just say that Megan is relatively new to the CLC approach and her work at the New Frontier, well, as a community development agent. So I just wanted to say that, don't need to have every answer, but you've been doing a great job over these last 3, 4, 5 months. And so, yeah, I'm just happy to speak to you about this. So from your perspective, can you just say a few words about your role as community development agent at the HEC Hub, which maybe you can explain what that is. So your role as a CDA and kind of like what do you do? What does it look like?
Yeah, sure. So HAC stands for the Huntington Adult Education and Learning Center, Community Center, sorry. And broadly put, I act as the liaison person for the school and the community. So some of the roles I play are helping plan and develop school and community projects. I can assist with grant searching, application, and the reporting process. I help find material and financial donations for the school. I also sit on community tables in our area as a representative for my school board and to represent HAC, which helps connect the school with funding as well as project development opportunities. And I also play a key role in the student life at our center and help develop some fun activities for the students using different community resources and partners.
Great, thank you. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, well, in the CLC approach, we develop an action plan. And I was wondering if you could kind of comment on what you've seen or some of the needs of the adult learners that have been identified. So yeah, what's coming up in terms of needs?
Yeah, I think the biggest need right now is mental health resources and support, as well as just ways to enhance student retention and engagement in our center. So I've kind of worked on trying to develop projects and also get resources from our community to help with this.
Okay, so kind of flowing from that question, mental health and wellness, retention, things like that. Can you share kind of one or two activities that have flourished through partnerships you've used partnerships to kind of meet those needs? So thinking about like who are the partners specifically, and maybe what are some of the like win-wins or like the mutually beneficial partnerships that have been in development?
Yeah, sure. The biggest project that I'm currently still working on is called the Greenhouse Cafe. So HAC has a horticulture program. And so we have 3 heated greenhouses, and through kind of some staff room discussions and talking with some of the students, everyone would always say like how nice it felt to be in the greenhouses during, especially when it was cold or gloomy days. And so this got the idea flowing of maybe creating a little cafe area with some relaxing kind of furniture and a little coffee corner for everyone to be able to enjoy the space.
And as you kind of tell that story, if you don't mind, I'm just going to show you some pictures at the same time, but feel free to keep talking.
Sure. And so this idea was kind of being created, and one of our very close partners in the area is the Montérégie West Community Network. who is kind of a organization which provides information and resources to English-speaking community in the Océan region. So they help promote and improve English-speaking people's access to health and social services. And so they ended up loving this idea, and they had some other projects that they were looking to support us on. And so they partnered with us and applied for a grant, the CHSSN Youth and Mental Health Initiative Grant. And so it was kind of through the CLC partnership that HAC received some funding and was able to execute this project. And so now the Greenhouse Cafe has been opened. It's been open since October. Right now it's mainly just open to staff and students at HAC, but the long-term goal is to have this space open to the community, MWCN members. And so the win-win is kind of, we now have a space that is meant to help our students who need some mental health support. And this will also in turn be available to our community.
Great, thank you. There's another story that you had mentioned to me before.
Yes.
Tell us another one.
So it's at another one of my adult centers, which is located in Ormstown, Quebec. The Chateauguay, I always mix up the acronym, is CVCEC, the Chateauguay Valley Career and Education Center. So they also have a healthcare program, and so they often partner with MWCN as well. A lot of their members are seniors, and so they get together, I think, monthly to have coffee chats, to play bingo. They play pickleball together, and the students are able to kind of use their knowledge. They'll like give presentations to this organization all about wellness and nutrition. And so that collaboration, it's very kind of trade specific. I think that is one of the big things I've learned working in adult centers, is often the partnerships you will make are connected to the programs and the students that are in the centers. But that, yeah, it's a great partnership.
And I guess one of my last questions is, thinking about the students and the fact they're in these, career centers, what have been the benefits in terms of having these connections with the seniors that you've seen?
I think it creates connections for even after they're done their trade program. Sometimes it can lead to employment opportunities, or just to have extra experience applying the skills they're learning in school to the real life, and to help out even in our community. And it gives the schools a good reputation, I guess, even within our organizations.
Okay, great. So that's it, Megan. I mean, there's other questions I'd love to ask you. Actually, I want one more. I'm looking here at, you'd mentioned the carpentry students at CVCEC. Can you maybe just very quickly just kind of tell that story as well, about that collaboration?
Yeah, it wasn't when I was the CDA, but they do and have collaborate on kind of community projects. They've built, I believe, outdoor classrooms. They were collaborating with another school board on building some raised planter beds, because they wanted to do a community garden project. They've built like bird houses to give to elderly people. I don't know all of the specifics about this, but
and just, I mean, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but I was reading an article this morning that was about community-based learning and social emotional learning and the connections between the two. And I guess I was just very intrigued or inspired by this opportunity for these carpentry students to engage in authentic learning, to kind of build with a purpose, which is, part of what they're going to be doing in their career. But the benefits that come from, making things for people, whether they're elementary students or seniors. Anyway, Megan, thank you so much for sharing some very concrete examples of ways adult ed centers and vocational ed centers are involved in the CLC approach. So with that, I'd like to turn the spotlight to Anna Osborne, who has been part of the CLC world for a good number of years now. And maybe I'll just kind of ask you the initial question, and I would love it if you could kind of tell us a bit of your story, and then kind of your perspective from your position now. So, over the past 10 years, you have experience both as a community development agent and as the director of centers at Littoral. So can you share some examples of adult ed and CLCs working together?
Well, I'll start with when I was working as a CDA, because when we first started with our CLCs at Netagamu, at that time we were really focusing on sort of the continuum of lifelong learning from 0 to 100, and I really worked with our adult ed team at the time to see what were the needs of the adults in the community from the perspective of lifelong learning, community vitality, all those things that are, heart and soul of the CLC, as well as the youth themselves in the context of parents. So thinking a little bit like Ben's diagram there earlier, or the little image earlier, where the youth are at the center, and then they're surrounded by family who are surrounded by community, and everybody, if we work together, there's benefits for each individual I guess group in that puzzle. So we did a whole variety of things, but one of the things that we really focused on was parenting education, which was something that the adult ed centers were working towards. Family literacy, which is what the adult ed centers were working towards. Popular education, which is more the adult side of learning. And we did a variety of programs and projects together. One of them was really promoting early childhood development and literacy, but in collaboration with parents, in collaboration with our local school community libraries. In the Lower North Shore, we don't have a school library and a community library. We have one library that serves the whole population because it's very small communities. So already there's an element of collaboration between the school and the community. So we just built upon that. And we put in place these, we call them the sleepy time story hours, where families were, especially of the young children, the 0 to 5 age children, were encouraged to come in. And we had students from the school and with the senior reading to those children. The goal was to promote early childhood development, promote emergent literacy, to engage the parents, provide an opportunity to kind of make them aware of all the programs and services that were available to them, including adult education, including the parenting education workshops that were available, promote bilingualism, and by introducing and making available books for that population, both the children and the adults. So what else? I don't know if that answers your question, Bill.
Well, I mean, you've touched upon kind of the different programs and projects. Can you maybe speak about like some of the partnerships, the specific people that you were able to partner with?
So definitely we worked with the community side of the library, which Biblio Côte Nord, which is, we still work with, the school board still works with them. We worked with the school, we worked within the school board with adult education, the staff that were designated to work on family literacy and parenting education. We worked with community organizations to canvass and recruit seniors that could be reader leaders for the school age children that were also reading to the little ones. So the grade 4, 5, 6 students that were recruited to read with a senior once a month. What other kind of, just in that example, I would say that's probably it.
Okay. So when we started this conversation a few weeks ago, I kind of wanted to learn a bit more about what was happening at the different adult centers. You let me know about a measure 15163 to support parenting education and family literacy. And you had a really, I think, like, I'll use the word fresh, like inspiring kind of take on it. That it wasn't that this was, well, I'll let you speak specifically about it, but like, can you say a few words about how you might use this measure to meet the needs of the center community, and kind of what goals would be enhanced for the center by working with a community partner using this measure?
Well, the measure that we're talking about is the measure that's available in the adult education, general adult education sector that's dedicated to adult literacy, building competencies of literacy competencies of adults. And there's one volet, one aspect that's really aimed at family literacy practices. So this is really, for me, when I'm sitting with my hat within now the adult sector, I'm working towards the same thing that I was working as a CLC development agent, but reaching back to the families and working with community partners that are that work across our region to promote family literacy and to promote family literacy practices. And so we're working on in this center, the one that I'm at actually now, we share the space with the community organization that works with the 0 to 5s. And so we're building like a little library. We have a plan to deploy the same kind of program that we did when I was a CLC agent, but through the adult ed center itself, not in the school. And the reason that I'm doing that is because my target clientele is still the families, it's still the parents. I want to support them and encourage their family literacy practices with the same approach that, if the families have good literacy practices, generally that the trend shows that trickles down, so that builds early readers. And we know with early readers, that opens obviously a full door, many doors to them as when they go to school. We're also promoting bilingualism still, because we really want to support that our students, our youth and our adults are comfortable in both languages as much as possible. So it provides a mechanism, I guess, if you will, or a partnership to bring families into our center to do family literacy based activities for those 0 to 5s for the families, but also we're able to share and provide examples of what's available to the adults. So if they're not totally comfortable in French, they could take a French course. If they are looking for other kinds of courses or learning opportunities or resources, then they're coming into our center to do that, after supper once a month. So it's a small, we're very much at the beginning stage, but that's the idea, is to really work with the community organizations. And we're working also with we have a librarian in our board. So we worked with the librarian to identify a list of books that are high interest, low level types of books for adults. So in English and in French, so that when the adults are there, if ever there's an adult that wants to improve their literacy, then they certainly can do that through our general adult education program, but it provides sort of a very low commitment step towards that through this little once a month initiative that we're starting.
Great, thank you. Sounds like a great collaboration and thinking through around goals and what are the different strategies that could be used to support family literacy for measures specifically in adult education. So thank you, Aina. So this is kind of where we're getting to the tail end of the webinar as it was planned. I want to kind of open up the space, whether people have any questions or whether they themselves want to just share a story of something that's happening in their own adult ed center. So questions or something to kind of add. as you think about that, I just want to share with you just one more resource that that I think would be helpful for different people as you kind of engage in this work, or you think about you know, who are the different potential partners that could work with adult ed centers and the youth sector. And specifically, it's around a community asset map, which is a tool that in the community learning center approach, we're always thinking about. So community assets are not always about money. It could also be, you know, human resources, like who are the people in the community that could help support it. What are the different kind of like natural or infrastructure that could support these types of partnerships? And there's a tool here, which I'll put the link in the chat as well, that anybody here you could use to start exploring, again, what are the kind of the assets around the community. And it's a really kind of easy tool to think about, like, oh, these measures, these grants exist, we have these spaces, we have these community partners. And again, it's a great way to kind of begin having a discussion with somebody who may currently be in your CLC, or someone who's kind of on the periphery, but wants to start thinking about doing this type of work as well. So Chuck, I see your virtual hand up. Do you have a comment?
I'm going to help you out, Ben. You put it out there and no one answered, so I'll bite the bullet. I'm just going to piggyback very quickly, not rehash what was said, but Ina said the CLC world and the adult ed world is basically one and the same to me. You're basically helping the families help themselves, which helps the children's, which helps all those things. If I were to tell you that English speakers in this province are 2% more likely to be unemployed, English speakers in this province are 2% more likely to be unemployed. Everyone in the adult sector, everyone in the CLC world should take that to heart, because that's where your mandate is, to help the families improve their chances of success, which helps the children. So finding ways to tap into different resources that work in this province. And I say this to all the center directors who are not here, and I think that's the essence of what this webinar was for. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is amazing. These are converted almost. The ability of who's going to make those matchmaking with the community groups, with the health and social services, with provincial employment roundtables. You don't have the time. Having someone who's your advocate speaking on your behalf to help facilitate those partnerships helps makes things happen. So when Ben just asked us, what's the first thing an adult center having a CLC, it's kind of innovative. I don't think it's innovative in any way. HAC was built as a CLC before we even had any adult programs when it started in 2007. It was an old elementary school. It became a CLC. It's just finding ways to maximize and optimize the resources that are in an area. So to those who are not here, I would just say it can be done. It's being done. It's just finding the right people. And it starts all with a CDA in place to help you and your team do what you're trying to do, which is to help the adults, which help the families, which help the children. It's all intertwined.
Absolutely, Chuck. Thanks for sharing. Any other questions or comments? Inspirational visions. You know, as kind of Chuck alluded, and I know I take this as like a really positive. I know Aina shared this with Proceed. A good number of directors were going to join us. I think I take it as interest in this type of approach and the potential. So you know, the goal of this was to kind of share the great things that are happening. Like the work continues with getting the word out there. Because yeah, it's all connected, as they say, and so important. Sumin.
Maybe I have a question that maybe some very wise people, because I do see a lot of familiar faces, might be able to provide. I'm really interested in extended model CLC bringing in the adult ed sector. So yes, it's an extended model, but the extended model has not formally extended to the adult ed sector. They're not in our region. They're in a very different region, but we're looking at exploring how to work together. And I'm wondering if anybody here has that experience of an extended model CLC that has started working more with an adult ed sector, and if they have any hot tips for me, other than, you know, your typical partnership development and all of that, but any super hot tips when you're working in the same board, they're just trying to add that extra layer. Go.
Anna, go ahead.
Okay. I would say the first step that I would do would be to reach out to whoever the director is in the center that's closest to you, or the directors, but it might be more practical and individualized to do one at a time if you have multiple centers. Introduce yourself, explain that you're in the same board, this is what you're doing in the youth sector, and that you might, you in your CLC space, there may be an opportunity to outreach more to the adults in that area that maybe are not going to the center itself. So, you become a means to have a better outreach, perhaps, if it's needed or if it's not happening, or to strengthen that outreach. And then just to see, I think it would be worthwhile to explain who you are and what you're doing and how you could outreach to the adult population or to the community. You've heard some great examples there with New Frontiers, to the amazing things that they're doing. So you have vocational centers there in Eastern Township School Board that could be really interesting. And maybe maybe at New Frontiers, they might be able to help you connect with the adult ed counterparts in Eastern Townships, if you do a tag team effort, maybe.
Great. Thanks, Anna. Great advice. And Sumini, I think what I was thinking about was, almost taking your own advice, which is to leverage existing partnerships where things have been successful in one place. And through that conversation, you might say like, hey, this is an opportunity to connect with your students and the families to replicate something that has already been successful. Other questions or comments? So with that, I guess I want to thank all of you for joining. Certainly, I enjoyed putting together this webinar and thinking about adult education, vocational education, and where these partnerships have been successful, and the great work of the different community development agents and directors to foster this. So, if you have any other questions or want to do any follow-up, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or to Debbie Horrocks. I'm going to put my email just in the chat. But sorry, I can't speak and type at the same time. I want to wish all of you a happy Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoy all the spirit that might be in your center or work, and just in your personal lives. And just generally thank you for joining and being curious about this really, I think, innovative practice in Quebec school boards and the CLC approach. Debbie, any last words?
No, just thanks all. I want to thank Dana and Megan. It's always great to hear from the ground. But yeah, I think that's a really, as Chuck said, I think it's a really good opportunity to connect our all the levels of
education
and through the adult sector. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Christy. Bye, Christy.
Ben, I'm so sorry. I had it as 10:30 in my calendar, and I just
That's
realized
okay.
it started at 10.
Yes.
We're so new to all of this that new to all of this. We were invited, we were told like a couple of days ago. I know a lot about CLCs, but I'm like, oh, I think that's a great idea to bring it into our Voc centers. So, but I guess I'll see you guys at AESQ, right? Because you're going to present.
I don't know if Ben will be there.
You may not
right
see me,
now.
but
I don't know who's coming. It's me for sure, but
Okay.
if you have any, as you ponder this, if you have any specific questions or things you're like, oh, that would be really interesting in terms of partnership development.
Yeah.
because right now, Christy, your 3 CLCs aren't really, except for Burling. Burling, you said, Ben, I think Ben said, was it Burling that had one?
It's part of the same building, sort of.
I think it's Burling, it's Riverside. It used to be Riverdale, but I don't know if they moved the Riverdale one. And
Okay.
I think Lakeside has one as well.
Okay.
But I'm interested in it more from like, I want to do more community work as opposed to just offering DEPs and.
Right. I think like a takeaway that I would just offer to you is, and I think you were here for when Aina was speaking, she was speaking about measure,
Yeah.
15163.
Yeah, 15161, I think I pulled it up.
5161.
Yeah, I have it at 63 as well, so maybe it's two of them, but it's around.
There's 60 to 64 that all fit to the adult centers, so.
And so,
Okay.
you know, part of her story was around, you know, what are the adults that are in this center who have families in many cases, and ways they could connect to family literacy, and like who are the partners. So it's not